间公主 HFP 3
Wang Yibo's new play The Wind Rises Luoyang, a brief talk on the funeral and mourning of the people in the Tang Dynasty. Regarding Wang Yibo's new play The Wind Rises Luoyang, I suddenly thought of a very interesting point. So today I want to talk to you about the funeral of the people in the Tang Dynasty. Wind from Luoyang is said to be the death of Baili Hongyi's father inexplicably. Then he invested in investigating and solving the case. In other words, in the whole process of solving the case, Baili Hongyi actually wanted to keep filial piety funeral system. The Tang Dynasty was a very prosperous dynasty, rich and prosperous from top to bottom. Therefore, the Tang Dynasty generally paid attention to the Zhou Li in respect of funeral rituals. And pay attention to thick burial, the imperial court also formulated a full set of funeral system, and required strict compliance. Another advantage is that even if you are an official, you don't have to spend all your own money even if you pay attention to burial. The imperial court will allocate funds for funerals according to the rank of officials. Even the burial artifacts were fired by the general manager. Therefore, many of the Ming artifacts unearthed from the tombs of the Tang Dynasty are similar in length. The death of officials above the third grade official can be called succumbing. That's right. This word is not only used in the imperial family, it can be used in the Tang Dynasty and above the third grade. It just so happened that Baili Hongyi's father was in the Dongbu Shangshu, and he was the third grade, so Master Baili was sucked. Bereavement regulations. According to the ancient funeral regulations, when the father died, the sons had to stay together for 3 years. You can't marry for the past 3 years. You have to be mourning, and it's best to live next to the cemetery. I didn't wash my face or hair for 3 years, dressed like a beggar. It's better to eat than to beg, and you have to cry every day. Of course, people who can do this completely in the history books, you can almost count it with just one hand. The ancients were not able to meet such abnormal requirements. The TV series can't let Baili Hongyi live like this for 3 years, and still failed to solve the case. Funeral mourning clothes. In the TV series, I saw some improvements from the funeral ceremonial attire. Otherwise, it would be a bit ugly to copy the ancient mourning clothes completely. However, the costumes of the crew are still close to the small details. For example, the male brother of the bereaved family wants to crown. Baili Hongyi even removed the small golden crown of hairpin and hosta that he often wears on his head. I replaced it with a Rami bundle and tied a linen cloth on my forehead. It fits the Rami scarf head. The linen on his body is also a little more delicate than the linen that I actually want to wear. But if you look closely, the pinch is very thick. I remember seeing a close shot of him wearing mourning clothes before. The stitches on his sackcloth are as thick as a 3-year-old kid sews on it casually. These small details fit the requirements of ancient mourning clothes. It's not so completely copied, I kind of like it. Looking at the stills, it should not be difficult to find that Baili Hongyi has a lot of clothes. But most of them are mainly plain colors. But in fact, the noblemen of the Tang Dynasty were very embarrassed. Red, green, blue and purple. All kinds of patterns and colors will be worn. Baili Hongyi mostly wears plain clothes because he is in mourning. He cannot change auspicious clothes, otherwise, according to the Tang law, he will go to jail. Shuao. Marriage. Think of an interesting point. When did Baili Hongyi marry a daughter? In law. Baili Hongyi's father is gone, and he is going to stay together for 3 years. According to the records of Tang LV Shu Yi, she declined for 3 years. Those who are not allowed to marry, those who are married must not have sex with one another. Otherwise, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. So, when did Baili Hongyi marry this wife? He can't marry a wife if his father is fucking. Didn't his father marry before? It's not bad, chatting under the quilt. In the Tang Dynasty, filial piety was very strict. Anyway, the filial piety period cannot be honored by Zhou Gong. After 3 years of marriage, you can't have a baby in the same room. Otherwise you will be arrested and locked up for 3 years. During the mourning period, free banquet entertainment. Tang law commentary also stipulates that during the mourning period, it is not allowed to go to the banquet. If you hear someone playing music and singing on the street, you can't stop and listen. You will be taken away as Zhang 100. So, Baili Xiaolong seems to go to the Feng Yue place. Although it's for investigating the case, it's worth discussing whether it's necessary to catch up and beat you up.